fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What we gonna eat no money, what we at you, eat no at you. Covid money, miss you, we eat the your little rat you. Use the youth, the money, waste a must a man to statue. Say me like a catch you, but bigger than a figure you. Take the sprint of money, girl, and say that it's not you. On the head, the man above me, look him, I got a bet too much. It in the kitchen, some a fly well like a patu. When singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me.
300% raise.
It burn me.
Garbage pile up the day.
It burn me.
Give the teacher them raise.
It burn me.
I see corruption face.
It burn me.
Mash down the people them house.
It burn me.
Every day appear arms out.
It burn me.
Appear money them a thief.
It burn me.
And them a sell out the beach.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
Come me say big up all the charities and all of the giver. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The already promises, none of them not deliver. Cut up the youth, they rap and they down in a whatever. Member bowl only and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and they pocket them swell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell, go mash up people start like thief when them sell.
It burn me.
Or they treat the market man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the cat man.
It burn me.
Or they treat the peanut man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the jerk man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the son man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat policeman.
It burn me.
Or them a treat soldier man.
It burn me.
How them a treat everyone.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again.
Stibby dim day. We in Global TV says certain kind of friend we no cape. And some informer friend we love lake. We in Global, bona fake friend and bona tape. We in Global, we not promote them, we not support them. Look at them on the cheek, come here represent for. We in Global TV. Check it.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the People's Point of View. It is your station, the Global Television Group. Thank you for joining us this evening. I was expecting a FinSAC report, but I kind of gather a different understanding from Nigel's explanation today. Me no know who did. I mean, one mistaken when Nigel tell with the report is completed, and I did me one confused when Nigel said the report was going to be made into a documentary. Some nonsensical of that. To my community of party and all my family members, platform moderators, membership holders, viewers, subscribers, commenters, and trolls, good evening. If you hear me, the must say me feel tired, though. Probably just sit down and look on the comments tonight, the way how me tired. Beat and Teach, Wagwan, Marcia Thomas, Devante Dunn, RJ, Sharon Bernard, Miranda Ruddock, Gloria Morris, Michelle Lewis Wilson, Paulette Jones, Deb, Rosemary Samuels, the Unstoppable One. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Was anyone listening to Nigel Clarke at his FinSAC symposium today? Hands up if you listened to Nigel Clarke at the FinSAC symposium. We want to know if you were there, and we want to know what understanding you gathered from what you heard. Because I thought that, Miranda Raddock, how are you? It was a detailed report. Tash, good evening. But what I learned, and we're going to dive into it a little bit later, listening to the famous Nigel. What I gathered was an uncompleted job, Rebel with a cause, Marcia Thomas, because the commission, because of financial and other whatsoever influence, came to an end before they produced a report on the information they've gathered. But at the collapse of the commission, then the information collected during the commission's lifetime was handed over to Nigel. Therefore, Echo, this is what Nigel presented us today, a plethora of information collected by the FinStack Commission. What we also learn, and you will hear him explain it further, because he did promise us it was going to be a documentary. But it's going to be a study. It's going to be a scholarship. It's going to be an academic study. For you high class years, head teacher, Wagwan, long time, no see how you do, is a holder. For you high class years who are going to university and still have to call Andrew and ask him if a rumor is really a rumor or not. That's what I gathered. Maybe because my dog ears was a bit down, I mistake what Nigel was saying. But Nigel will have to explain it to you for himself, because you don't know, so when it come to the money area and the tax area and they fix up them something, the good area, it's not really something that me we done slightly labor right them would understand. Cause I know my son done see no justice pantan sister, so when nobody come blame me, say I'm me sister, a justice pantan sister. We're gonna listen to Nigel, but I will speed up and cut out what I think is relevant to bring you the brouhaha from Dr. the Honorable Crook. Let us draw it up. And them FinStack nonsense. Oh.
And the public service, the lovely, the great, Howard Shaw, former Minister of Finance at the Ministry of Force, and specially invited guests, members of the media, and those joining us online. Good morning again, and welcome to the launch of the FinStack Commission Archives. I am Shaquille Rochester Shorter, and I'll be your moderator for today. All right, so this morning we are launching the publication of the FinStack Commission Archives that will provide an opportunity for stakeholders, researchers, and members of the public to access valuable insights from various perspectives that will add to public understanding of that period. The material gathered by the Commission and which will be included in the archives includes contributions from then government officials, economists, academics, former leaders of failed financial institutions, and customers of those institutions.
What you say you couldn't find on Google Beat and Teach?
So, with that said, we will get to the meat of the matter. We will now invite Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clarke to bring remarks. Make him welcome, please.
Wanna listen carefully, come in. I want to tell no lie upon Nigel.
Good morning, everyone. First, let me begin by expressing gratitude to the staff at the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, in particular, the legal department led by Terry-Ann Finnegan, the communications department led by Shaquille Rochester, and to Stephanie Abrahams from my own office, and of course, all supervised by the financial secretary.
It depends on the Ministry of Finance website and Beat and
to make
Teach.
these archives available online today. Many times you see the dazzle, the product, the end product, and nobody knows what goes into that product. And I must tell you that to get all of those documents up online in time for this morning's presentation took going the extra mile. And I want to publicly recognize
And Nigel Michael, one of my mic.
for what they have done. Please give him a round of applause. Madam Master of Ceremonies, Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Xavier Main, former Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Audley Shaw. I'm seeing former Commissioner of the FinSAC Commission, I think the only surviving member of the original commission, was one other, Mr. Charles Ross. I believe the daughter of the secretary to the commission is here, De Peralta. Where are you? There she is. Welcome. And I'm seeing various other persons who have been associated with FinSAC over the years who are here in the audience this morning. This presentation is being streamed online. Welcome to members of the media who are here in person and to those who have joined online. The FinSAC Commission was established by proclamation by the Governor General in January of 2009. And it was tasked to inquire into the circumstances that led to the collapse of the financial sector in the 1990s, with particular reference to whether those factors were domestic or external in nature. As far as domestic factors are concerned, to consider the monetary and fiscal policy environment at the time and whether those were contributory factors, to examine the role of the boards of directors of financial companies at the time and the management, and to ascertain what their responsibility was and to what extent decisions they made were contributory factors, and also to look into the government's regulatory environment to establish whether or not inadequacies were to blame for the collapse in the financial sector. The Commission was also asked to look into the operations of FinSAC and whether decisions were made on an even-handed and fair basis, to look into the terms and conditions for the sale of the portfolio to the Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation of the loan portfolio, and to ascertain whether that was fairly handled and whether the liquidation of assets, etc., was done on a neutral basis, among a few other items. The Commission was plagued with problems from the very beginning. A chairman of the Commission had to be replaced after being challenged in court. The Commission had problems finding a place to meet. It took 9 months to find a suitable venue. And even after that venue was found and the chairman was replaced, the Commission had starts and stops over the intervening period. inclusive of starts and stops due to changes in the government. By 2018, the cabinet had lost confidence in the commission's ability to produce a report, even though they would have started, and in the archives, there are, I believe, 2 or 3 chapters of a report that was, of the initial report. But the cabinet, having provided funds and additional funds over time on the promise of the report, felt that there's too much exposure for providing resources with no report forthcoming. As such, in, I believe it was February 2019, the commission resigned, and I think it was Commissioner Charles Ross himself who came to my office and presented me with an electronic disc that contained all of the submissions and documents presented to the FinSAC Commission. The good news is that the FinSAC Commission had long completed its public hearings. So there's no more information for the FinSAC Commission to gather. They had gathered all the information over the ensuing years that they had planned to gather. And they were in the write-up phase, which was just consuming too much resources with promises that, look, we're going to get it done with another 30 million, and that is finished, no report. And it happened at least 2 times. So from my perspective as Minister of Finance, being presented with this material, you know, I abide by the principle of everybody having a responsibility to water your own garden, i.e. everybody has your sphere of responsibility, your sphere of influence, and it is the responsibility of us all to handle those spheres in the best way we can. So being presented, I came into this essentially being presented with a stick that had all of this information. What now is my responsibility in that? The commission has resigned. There's no commission. The hearings are finished. I certainly did not think it would be appropriate for that jump drive to end up in the waste bin or for it to be in file 13. The collapse of the financial sector in the 1990s was arguably the most monumental domestic economic event in Jamaica's independent history. It led to an accumulation of debt that represented 40% of GDP. And it has taken 30 years approximately for that debt to be wound down. Prior to FinSAC, Jamaica's debt to GDP ratio was in the low 70s. By 2002, our debt to GDP was over, I believe, 115%, on its way to 120%. And the rest is history. The accumulation of that debt led to a situation by 2002, 2003, where interest and wages alone exceeded tax revenues. Interest and wages alone exceeded tax revenue. There's no road, no classroom, no drugs to the hospital, no PATH program, no capital expenditure, no other item of expenditure. Just those two exceeded tax revenues. It was, I mean, unsustainable is too light of a word to use. And it plunged our country essentially into crisis when inevitable shocks came. And so it is incumbent upon us as a society, now that we have attained a debt level that is lower than the FinSAC, the pre-FinSAC era, And we're on track by the end of this fiscal year for a debt level in the high 60s. 67% is the forecast. It is incumbent upon us to ensure that the material gathered in the public hearings during the life of the FinSAC Commission are available to the public for edification, scrutiny, academic research, and most importantly, to ensure that we do not traverse this path again. And it is that conviction that led the Ministry of Finance on a path that has led to this morning. This is not a path that started yesterday or that even started in my budget presentation when I made the announcement back in March. This is something that would have started approximately 2 years ago with trying to find the best way to get this material into the public domain. And there would have been quite a few iterations. Now, it's important to note that in the disclosure of this material, great care has been taken to ensure that we observe the legislative environment as it exists today. And in this, I am not my own advisor, and I have to subject myself to the advice of the professionals who are permanently employed in the public bureaucracy. As such, a committee was appointed consisting of lawyers in the Ministry of Finance and others to review all of the material. And they would have gone through all of the documents that were on that electronic drive. We're talking about lots of documents. To redact any information that is personal in nature, that and that does not meet the test for public disclosure. They would have recommended that 1 or 2 out of thousands of documents would not be fit for disclosure, not for reasons that they contain any smoking gun, but that it would establish a precedent that would be problematic. But I don't want us to focus on that. I can say more about that in a second. So what we have here, and we're going to reveal today, are the documents that were handed over. And
I wonder what kind of precedent it would set if Nigel Clarke is to release the information Wema withhold. What kind of precedent it has set, and what are you withholding if you're publishing the entire archives?
This is not a file of debtor information, if anybody is, right? It's not a file of who owe money and who never owe money and who don't pay back. That's not what this is. This consists of submissions made to the commission. And you have people came to the commission and made oral submissions, i.e. they were interviewed by the commissioners, and the transcripts of those interviews are all available. And there are those who would have submitted written submissions to the commission. Now, the oral submissions, and some of the oral and written coincided, would have been carried in the media at the time. So there's a lot of information that is already in the media because the hearings were public, and when those hearings were undertaken, the media covered those hearings. But there are other material that were submitted that would not have been aired in a similar fashion. So the Commission archives represents the perspectives on this era from different categories of stakeholders. You have the perspectives of debtors, those who came forward to report of their experiences of borrowing from financial institutions and getting caught in the vortex that was the 1990s interest rate environment. You have the perspective of the major shareholders of financial institutions who came forward and provided their accounts of their stewardship and the problems and challenges that they faced. And you have the perspective of the policymakers, of the administrators of FinSAC, and I believe of some regulators as to how events unfolded from their point of view. To get a complete picture of this very important chapter in Jamaican life, it is important that all perspectives are considered. Running with a perspective that suits your particular agenda, whoever your is, does a disservice to the intent of the publication of the archives. The intent is that Jamaica learns from this experience and that this never recurs. In order to, and by publishing this archives, this event took place, as we discussed, 30 years ago. We've waited 30 years for this. So there's no rush now to jump to conclusions, or there ought not to be a rush to jump to conclusions, to read one document and then conclude. We've waited 30 years. Yeah? So the government, the Ministry of Finance, we're taking a long-term perspective with the publication of these archives, and we're going to make funding available to the University of the West Indies. $10 million. The University of Technology, $10 million, to catalyze a process where there's a call for research proposals from interested researchers, and there's an independent and transparent mechanism of awarding research grants with the view that researchers, qualified researchers, can interrogate this database and supplement it with other pertinent material and produce works of scholarship on this important period in our history. And it is hoped that in the adjudication of these research grants, it'll be done in such a way that we don't have overlapping research, but we have researchers looking into this period from various perspectives. I will end by expressing thanks to the commissioners who sat for many years under very frustrating conditions. And Charles Ross is here. Thank you for coming. And thank you for your service to the country. It doesn't turn out in the most optimal way, but we have taken lemons and we're going to make lemonade by making the information available, and your work and your service will eventually be seen as of value to the country. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I'm going to thank you, and we're going to turn over to the launch of the FinSAC Commission archives. Now, let me just say this before we do that. One of the signal lessons from this period is the role that financial sector stability plays in economic stability. We are rightly focused on the fiscal question, rightly focused on the inflation question, both important to economic stability, rightly focused on the sufficiency of foreign exchange. Those are all, I would say, in the front. And everybody knows that those are important for economic stability.
All right. Enough of Dr. Spratt at the moment. All right. You remember say me no go school though. You remember say me drop out of basic school. Me get kicked out of basic school for being disruptive. So you know say me no learn nothing. Diddly squat. Diddly squat. Me no learn nothing. Me drop out of basic school. So you know say Dunsness resides here. But what I am understanding, and I don't know if Uno get the understanding from listen to Nigel, because you see to me can't carry news good, me make Uno listen for yourself. There's no report that give us any detailed information or findings. What is published is a collation of, I don't know if I call the word right, of information with regards to trying to get to where they want to get to. But because the commission breakdown before it's achieved its aim of producing a report, when the commission resigned, they hand over the drive to Nigel, which has all the information, and the Ministry of Finance and them lawyers and all of them go through it and them decide, let's publish the archive of information that was collected with some reduction. Stay with it because it's hard to understand. What I'm getting though, with the publication of these archives, we will have to go and read it ourselves and come up to our own understanding, or we will have to wait until one of those interested universities or research group research it and come up with an idea of what happened. This is not a report. It's just the information collected. There's no report produced. We going to have to go read and find it for yourself. But for those of you who want to read it, it's on the homepage of the Ministry of Finance website. So whether you go on your computer or you go on your phone, when you get to this page and you see these open circle here, so you click the first circle and it gives you the FinSac archive. Then click on, am I sharing the right screen? Yes. Then you click on the thingy and it takes you to the FinSac Inquiry Archive, not FinSac Report. Note carefully. FinSac Commission Inquiry Archive, not a report. And when you scroll down the page, it gives you synopsis of the introduction, the background of why the report was produced, the challenges producing the report, and it gives you the timeline from 1986 up until 2019 when the commission resigned. But if you continue on further down, it tells you over 160 million was spent since 2018. Back to cover. But when you continue to go down into the report, the archive is down here in the yellow. So each of these yellow areas have separate sets of information which you have to throttle through yourself. Because I'm not going to read it for you if you're not interested in this FinSac archives. You're going to have to go plod through it on yourself and read all of the fuddles, meduddles, and come up with your own understanding. So first you have all the legal submissions, which the FinSac submission, Michael Hilton and Associates submission, Ralph Codlin submission. So those were the legal submissions. How do I go back? And then you go to the witness statement submissions. Let's see. There's quite a lot of witness statement submission. Dr. Omar Davis, Elton Beckford. You can go through it for yourself in your own time. You have the submission of the debtors, witness statements, But if you're interested in reading the report, that's the way to go through it and find lists of hearings. This list would be a list of the public hearing. So the public hearing was on July 11th, 2017. So that was one public hearing. So if you're interested, paper and finals, financials, paper and financial system 1990 and before. So if you're interested in reading, because as I said to you, there's no report produced. What is published is the collection of information that they would have used to produce their report. Hold on there. I forgot, so when me do them listing, I may never show on the right slot. So that's the commission hearing, and this is the witness statements and submissions, and this would be the legal submissions. But there's quite a lot of submission right across the report, the archives, if you want to read it for yourself, or if you want to do a study on it for yourself, because Nigel give university of this year 10 million, a university of that the 10 million to study and come up with some student are gonna write a thesis and tell us in their doctoral. I'm sure some of the students of the University of West Indies and I wish other university get 10 million to will no doubt be doing their doctoral on the FinSAC archives, and we will have to wait on a university student to produce their thesis if we cannot come up with an explanation for ourselves. And that's right there, you know, after we spend how much a million to produce FinSAC, Nigel come to it today and tell us, say, look here, we couldn't bother ya, man. It'll take too long. See what me collect there. Only read it to yourself and come up with your own understanding. So, just to be clear, there's not a published FinSAC report. We will have to go and read the FinSAC report ourselves and come up with our own understanding based on what is there. God help who doesn't have the financial knowledge and the investigative knowledge when reading these mumbo jumbo. I don't know how much of it I will have the time to go through. Certainly not. I know the medias will be throwing over it from time to time, picking things here and picking things there. But it is shameful because we were promised a report. I'm sure Nigel Clarke told us about a report. And I'm sure Nigel Clarke planned to put it into a documentary. E.M. Wagwan, Nigel Clarke planned to put it in a documentary. But see, after Nigel Clarke F up the country and a walk off, you see what Nigel Clarke come and just throw it with them. Mother heifers, go and read and come up to your own understanding. And not just the spontaneous say we're done without nonsense. We don't understand what we are making, we can't come up to nothing. So thank you, EM. Thank you very much. So therefore, Therefore, Nigel Clarke is throwing back the work to us. You know, just like how Greg Christie said to Pernell Charles, I see your hat, go wear it. I want to mess it up, go fix it. Nigel Clarke is coming to us today and say, look here, we run out of time and money. If you want to know what's in the FinSac report, go and read it yourself. Come up to your own understanding. We really don't care anymore. Don't you see I'm going off to the IMF? You think I could give two sodderas about you lot when I'm going off to a cushy overseas job? When I don't say Andrew a doctor too, Andrew might just be coming behind me. Somebody may want to use Andrew to steal. So he might just be coming behind me. But it is shameful. Nigel keep on telling us lie after lie after lie after lie. Will the report tell us? EM, there's no report. There's no report, EM. What Nigel Clarke published today is an archive of the information that the commission collected. Because, hold on there, before the commission managed to complete them work, the commission, because of financial reasons and others, the commission resigned. The commission was appointed. When they was appointed, I don't. Oh, hold on there. Version. Commission inquiry began in 2009. Hold on. FinSac inquiry established 2008. The inquiry began 2009. But what they looked back from was 1986. But because of financial and other reasons, the commission collapsed. What, 9-10 years later or so, however, I don't know, so I'm not good with number. So after the commission resigned in a 2019 EM, all the information they collected, they handed it over to the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance and them lawyers and everybody go through the information, them take out all of the personal information to do with people which is not necessary to be published, put out in public. And then what they publish today, EM, is the FinSac archives. And in this archive, there's a plethora of information for us to go through: the legal submissions, witness statements and submissions, the transcript of the report, agreement and acquisition of intervened institution, list of hearing. There was one public hearing, paper and financial system before the 90s and before, questions and related documents. This publication is for us to read and come up to our own understanding. Because the commission collapsed, the commission didn't have the time to produce a report. So these are all the information that the commission collected. So if we want to know EM, we're going to have to dive through it bit by bit ourselves, or when some of the media people them or some of the financial analysts them also go through it and start break it down for we can know some me done in them area. Then we will understand more of what they collected. But as to say that we have a report from the communication detailing their findings, putting forward recommendation, no, we're not having any of that. Therefore, Dr. Clarke is donating 20 million, 10 to 2 different universities, so they can do research on the archives that is published today. You know, people who do them doctoral, them PhD, they look through all of these information and they come up with their own findings as to what they think happened and what caused the collapse or who is responsible for the collapse. Let me read what you said. So, in other words, we are jerked around, pretty much so, EM, pretty much so, round and round the garden like a teddy bear. Tittle here, tickle there, tittle under there. It's quite what Nigel Clarke is doing with us. Just like how with the SSL report, investigation, we were going to have FBI, he was going to be transparent. Then afterward, Nigel Clarke in a court of fight for the judge sealed the report, and you can name up the commotions from Nigel Clarke. So we still have a lot to go to find out until a proper research is being done. And if we believe in academic research, until an academic research is done and put forward a rational reasoning as to what caused the collapse, who is responsible, and the recommendations to prevent such debacle from happening again, we're nowhere nearer. I mean, we're thrown further in the deep end because giving us so much information to throttle through and puddle through ourselves, I mean, we're thrown much further in the deep end when it comes to a FinSac, when it comes to closure or understanding of the whole FinSac debacle. Total mess. Nigel Clarke lied to us. We were expecting a report, a FinSac report. That's what has been touted around for quite some time. And that it was going to be made in a documentary. But we just realized today, with today's publication, that Nigel Clarke lied. Or maybe I understand it differently. I'm waiting for somebody to give a different perspective on it because, I don't know, these are really not my areas. But from listening and from what we were told and from what I know academically, this is not a report, because a report have findings and it have recommendations. What we are given is a witch hunt. That's all. What we are being given is a witch hunt. You know, the all fools, they send the fool a little further. It's pretty much the game. It's pretty much a tomfool game that I play upon we right now. Send the fool a little further. If him believe the lie, continue and keep him going down the road. It's pretty much what Dr. Clarke came out today and did to us while he's swanning off to the IMF. This was how your finance minister, the sliced bread finance minister, Jamaica's eloquent finance minister, that was what Nigel Clarke left you with. Confusion, lies, deception, misinformation, omission, and a messed up economy. A contracting budget, Nigel Clarke, even though we're the economic superpower for the Caribbean. I mean, you want to stuck it in your sausage, mate, innit? This was a big disgrace today. When Nigel Clarke tell us him I go give a report, and then Nigel Clarke come tell us say, go and go read and make up on your own understanding. Then to pour me, dunce me, you know, when me dunce, I don't know, say, we can dunce like labor right when me want dunce. So, kind of know, so when labor right read what in them mind and not with the pen and paper. Even Justice Panton can see that. that labor read where they inner them mind and not where they on paper. So to pour me ben figure read, so the reason why uno come with a half-baked report is because JLP politicians benefit more out of the FinSac debacle than anybody else. To pour me ben figure have the conclusion there. Because uno after spending how much million, uno no come tell with anything. Uno still come back tell we say, hey, you and your 160 million, can you go and read and come up with a reason for yourself? We never send another go to school. Remember, we go to free education, you know. So if we go to free education, after I spend 160 million. When you go and go read, no man. When you never go to school. No, me say, when you never go to school, says Nigel Clarke. So if you don't want to know, you have to go and read yourself. So if one day I wait today to hear who responsible for FinSac, over 160 million, not just 160 million, over 160 million FinSac caused us. And Dr. Clarke came back to us to tell us, read it for yourself. If you want to understand it, read it for yourself. It's as simple as that. Just read it for yourself. You don't have to believe when Nigel Clarke tell you, we're never going to have a conclusion on the FinSac matter. Or if a doctoral student take it up now, we can look for a thesis on it in the next 5-6 years. So we still have 5-6 years to wait and mumbo jumbo to come up with an academic response to the archives. Otherwise, we just read it and understand it for ourselves. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. We have to go read and for ourselves because Nigel Clarke say, we not at the time to sit down and babysit, says Nigel. So if you want to know what is in the report, you have to do it. I was kind of shocked because I was expecting a report. I was kind of disappointed. I was expecting at least a bit of conclusion to the matter, a bit more knowledge on who is responsible for the collapse. What lessons can we learn from the collapse? What measures do we put in place to prevent further collapse? That's what I was expecting to hear today. I was quite somewhat disappointed when Nigel come out and tell us that the commission them give me, and me a go on to read for myself. Me only take out people business out of it, what me think unnecessary for honor in the crowd here and know about. If you hear anybody with any different perspective, listen well as well, because people might understand it different from how I understand it. But based on what Nigel Clarke explained, I cannot really understand it any other way because that's what he says. So, thank you very much for being here with us tonight. I hope I didn't confuse you. I hope those in the financial community, I wonder if Charles and Mallow Ford had nightmare last night. This is the second time Mallow Ford was put down by the young man in the glass who came with wind out first time. Listen, did it just ring home Justice Pantan word as well, because Marlene Mallahu fought as a long time attorney. Marlene Mallahu fought a practice over 30 years now. Way over 30 years now, Mallahu fought a practice. And JLP appoint the commission. Are you saying Mallahu fought that Una didn't research the people who Una appoint, or was it an attempt to insult the young man? Because Una never have anything meaningful to say to them? Because it sounds pretty much like that. Because you would expect Marlene Mallahu fought as a lawyer, Marlene Mallahu fought as a legislator, Marlene Mallahu fought as someone who sits on the Integrity Oversight Commission. And you, Marlene Mallahu fought, you don't know the resume of the person sitting on the commission? That sure Justice Pantan argument. So Una don't read the legislations, Una don't read the report. And this is why Una keep embarrassing on yourself in a public when Una open on a mouth, because it's the first set of legislators to be confused of the very legislation where them sit down and craft and debate and pass it into law and tell we say it's okay for we. Now man Ferguson, what go on? So that show no how much, Raymond G, what you do? That show no how much under research or forgetful or insultive Marlene Mallahu fought is. Arlene Foster, wagwan, you come late, but you have to go watch fan top. But Nigel Clarke come tell we today about FinSac, and it left we more confused. But if we don't watch over the show, we understand my explanation to it. I'm sure a lot of people will be having their view on it, but this is my understanding. Lord, to know many will have read it because we busy. Exactly, beat and teach, him about beat and teach, them know say a lot of people not going to read the report, particularly a lot of people in a Jamaica nah go read the report. So that's why him just throw it out upon the Ministry of Finance website, and we going to have to go read it, Sonia Johnson, and break it down for yourself, or get expert who understand them field for break it down for it. Because even if I read it, I cannot break down certain intricacies to know when it comes to the financial field, because I just don't understand it, or the jargons, or what my head just down in them area there. But it no means that me can't understand when Nigel Clarke come explain to it today and you say it don't make no sense. It doesn't bring a conclusion to the situation. It's just nothing. It's just nothing than a plethora of information for us to trod through. That's all that we were presented today as the FinSac archives. That's why it's not called a report at the launch. It's called an archive, a collection of information. But Nigel Clarke had us believe that we were going to get a report. And then today we find out, say, we going to have to read the report, the information gathered, and produce the report ourselves, or until an academic study produce a thesis from the collation of information. Then we are just left to fumble or have our own views on what we've read or what we've heard, just like how the JLP, them, when it comes to ANJO, statutory declaration, them read what in their mind and not really what's written on paper. But thank you very much for being here this evening. You know, the FinSac argument is going to be going around for a while, but let's keep our ear to the ground for other opinions of what this archive is and what it means. Thank you very much for being here with us tonight on the Global Television Group. Join us tomorrow morning for your At a Glance program. It was great to have you all here. If you have not hit the like button, make sure you hit it before you go. If you're a first-time viewer, or if you're one of the mean viewers that is watching and have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Thank you for being a support to the platform, and good night from the Global Television Group.